And joining you now for an exclusive interview is Kristen Taylor, Associate Director at the Atlantic Council. Good evening to you, ma'am.
Hi, thanks so much for having me today.
Thanks for being with us. I want to start with this developing story tonight. So Poland's former Justice Minister Zbigniew Ziobro, he's just confirmed that he is indeed in the United States. He's reportedly been granted a visa by Donald Trump against the advice of Marco Rubio and other officials. How do you read this? What do you make of it? What are some of the potential diplomatic ramifications, especially from the American side?
Yeah, I would start and say that the situation is continuing to evolve. A lot of the reports that we're hearing have yet to be verified. The State Department has not yet released a statement on whether or not the U.S. has issued a visa. I would expect that to come later if they have. The Polish Justice Ministry has said that they will seek extradition tomorrow, Monday, as soon as things open, if this is in fact kind of verified, at which point I would expect the State Department and potentially the White House to make a statement. Until that happens, I would say let us wait and see what continues to evolve. If the United States does in fact issue asylum or a visa in this instance and does not respond to Polish efforts for extradition, I would expect this to have diplomatic ramifications and be seen both in Poland and across Europe as a bit of a diplomatic thumb to the eye.
So much to watch. Now, I want to move to Moscow here, and the quote, "I think that this matter is coming to an end." Those are Vladimir Putin's words on his war in Ukraine. Is there any reason to believe him? What does he mean by those words? We had our correspondent earlier who basically pointed out that this is some kind of doubling down as opposed to a concession.
Yes, so Putin's recent comments today come on the back of a ceasefire agreement that kind of was a temporary put into place on the side to assure that Ukraine would not attack. Yesterday during Moscow's kind of military victory parade, we saw that ceasefire not hold, and then Putin kind of came out to say that he sees these matters coming to a close, given the fact that Russia launched an unprovoked and unprecedented war on Ukraine 4 years ago and has not negotiated in good faith since then. I have no reason to expect that Moscow is operating in good faith now. And I would expect the war and battlefield dynamics to continue as they have been.
Of course, the Victory Day parade on Saturday had no weapons. There were only pictures broadcast on the screen of state television. There was just one leader from a former Soviet republic. That was Alexander Lukashenko from Belarus. What does this tell us about the Kremlin regime, about the strength of President Putin right now?
I think it shows a lot of vulnerability. This was one of the smallest kind of military victory parades that we've seen in decades from Russia. Similar to what you're saying, no military equipment was there. Heads of state and government didn't travel in the normal force that we've seen in years past. And reports show that Russian citizens were upset with some of the security measures, like blocking the internet during the time. And Putin also had to make an appeal to President Zelenskyy to ensure that kind of Ukraine would not attack with drones during the military parade. So I would say that this shows a lot of vulnerability and shows that Russia's initial aim to take Ukraine very quickly in a special military operation failed and is showing the weaknesses of what has become a 4-year entrenched war.
There's a headline in The Economist this week. It reads, and I quote, "Vladimir Putin is losing his grip on Russia." Now, that was an anonymous piece reportedly written by a former senior official in the Russian government. I guess the question is, are they right? Is Vladimir Putin losing his grip on Russia?
I mean, Vladimir Putin for years has been, since Ukraine, in a very precarious situation where he's promised Russian elites as well as Russian citizens kind of a large sweeping victory in Ukraine. He's walked that back now to say that victory might look like just kind of occupation of the Donbass and some Ukrainian recognition there. So I would say it absolutely highlights vulnerability in the fact that Putin has not been able to deliver on a lot of these promises. Whether or not this is indicative of a broader issue more structurally for Putin's administration, For decades now, analysts have been saying that perhaps kind of one of these issues might be something that would put Putin in true political peril. We've yet to see that, so I would be hesitant to say that we'll see any large scale changes based on anything that we're currently seeing. But I definitely think that this is highlighting a lot of vulnerabilities on Putin's part.
I do want to ask about Donald Trump and Ukraine. Do you think that Ukraine is sitting at the front of Donald Trump's mind at all right now, given his focus on Iran? I especially ask that in the context of his visit this week to Xi Jinping in Beijing. Do you expect Ukraine to at all be discussed, given Iran, given tariffs?
I would say that no, kind of Ukraine is not top of mind for this U.S. administration. President Trump has kind of periodically brought back kind of Russia and Ukraine as a point of peace for him, that he would love to see kind of a peace agreement in place. But that's not been highlighted or been a major priority of this administration currently, giving, as you said, kind of U.S. ongoing military operations in Iran, some broader European fractures on things like tariffs and changes to U.S. troop presence in Europe being announced. And now this diplomatic visit over to Beijing, I would expect Russia and Ukraine to be lower on the priority list for this U.S. president.
I want to end with the Transatlantic alliance at large. We've seen President Trump fall out with his own ally, Giorgia Meloni, last month. We've seen Marco Rubio now hitting Rome to patch things up. Add to that the fall of Viktor Orban. Add to that his dispute with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz and obviously his withdrawal or announcement of withdrawal of troops from Germany. Is Donald Trump trying to bully his own friends, and could he lose them altogether by doing that?
Absolutely. I think that this is a president that has said that he is more concerned with transactional relationships than kind of the historic alliance model that the United States has engaged with, particularly in Europe. The president is using kind of U.S. power, both on an economic and a security level, to try and leverage bilateral relationships with European governments to get everything from ranging to European support in Iran to better trade agreements for the United States. I would expect that pattern to continue. Europeans, rightfully so, are concerned and are continuing to better understand how to act under this kind of new diplomatic paradigm under which Donald Trump operates. And I would expect that a lot of the tensions in the transatlantic relationship to continue on both sides moving forward, given this very transactional approach from the United States.
Kristen Taylor, Associate Director at the Atlantic Council, thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
And that's all for World News tonight. Do stay with us here on TVP World for more news and analysis. I'm Aaron Dahmen. Good night.